Midday, and this is Africa Update coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa on Channel Africa from an African perspective. I'm Lulu Gaboo. I'm in studio with Jwalani Tulongwepe, Figile Lingwati and Tabiso Lohoko. Coming up in this hour.
People in the capital, Khartoum, are returning from neighboring countries, including Egypt, Libya, Chad, South Sudan, Eritrea, and Ethiopia on a daily basis.
Thousands head back to Khartoum in an attempt to rebuild their lives and homes.
So there is already a first indication that it might have been a targeted strike.
And at least 20 people, including 5 journalists, were killed when the Israeli military struck the Nasser hospital complex in Khan Yunis in the southern Gaza Strip. But first up, the news with Jwalani Tulongwepe and our sports headlines with Figile Lingwati.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. Good day. We start with breaking news. South Africa's Constitutional Court has refused the family of the late former Zambian President Edgar Lungu's urgent bid to directly appeal the judgment of the High Court in Pretoria. It had found that the Zambian government are entitled to repatriate Lungu's remains for the purpose of a state funeral and burial. The Court has found that no case has been made out for a direct appeal. The family turned to the Apex Court in a bid to have the entire High Court judgment set aside and replaced with an order that dismisses the Zambian government's application with costs. 500,000 people returned to the Sudanese capital Khartoum in July alone, this as the city begins to recover from a devastating war. The International Organization for Migration said over 500,000 individuals made their way back to the city last month, a staggering 400% increase compared with June. The spike in returns came 4 months after Sudan's army recaptured the city from its rival paramilitary rapid support forces in March, and as the government launches reconstruction efforts. Naba Muhyiddin reports.
People in the capital, Khartoum, are returning from neighboring countries, including Egypt, Libya, Chad, South Sudan, Eritrea, and Ethiopia on a daily basis. They are trying to rebuild their lives, but the challenges are very big. Most of power and water plants were targeted by the militia, but the Sudanese government vowed to continue their work and construction work regarding fixing and maintaining power and water plants in order to make people voluntarily come back and rebuild their lives.
A group of UN experts has urged the authorities in Mali to free immediately an anti-corruption campaigner who's been in jail for nearly 2 years. Clement Mamadou Dembele has remained in detention despite a court ruling 4 months ago that he should be released. According to the UN experts, the case reflects an escalating pattern of human rights violations against members of the
people, and we requested for quotations on some of the missing critical items, and we received a quote from some of the local suppliers where the total amount proposed was about 780 million pula. The same list was shared with aggregates across the globe to see where we could land in terms of price, and we landed on average at about 80 million pula.
Australian police are hunting a gunman who shot dead 2 officers and wounded another as they tried to serve a warrant for historical sex abuse allegations to a man at a rural property in the state of Victoria. The police have described the incident as ongoing. The BBC's Simon Atkinson reports.
It's understood police were attending a property in the Puapunka area to make an arrest when they were set upon. Official details are still scant, but multiple news outlets quote police sources saying 2 officers were killed. It's also reported their firearms have been taken and the alleged offender is now on the run. A local school has been put into lockdown. Australia's Federal Police Commissioner said there were grave concerns for some of the police officers involved in the incident. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said his thoughts were with those involved. Gun crime is relatively rare in Australia, which has some of the world's strictest gun regulations.
For any news stories you would like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I'm Jwalani Tulongwepe.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
In our sports headline, Rwanda have beefed up their squad for September's FIFA World Cup qualifiers against Nigeria and Zimbabwe. And Lloyd Harris will take on Taylor Fritz in the second round of the US Open Men's Singles 2025 on Thursday. I'll be back with these and other stories at the bottom of the hour.
Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
Well, thank you to Jwalani Tulongwepe with our news update and Figile Lingwati with our sports headlines. It is 12:06 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa on DSTV's audio bouquet channel 802, OpenView channel 628, and on www.channelafrica.co.za, as well as on the SABC Plus app, available on the Apple and Google Play stores. Join us in conversation on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1. On Facebook at Channel Africa, you can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763. That's 406-9126 hashtag Africa Update, and let us know which country you're in. And if you have any stories that you'd like us to highlight or to focus on, send us an email. It is newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or give us a call on +2711 714 4459. And today on hashtag Africa Update Ask, as the globe observes World Water Week under the theme Water for Climate Action, what can you tell us about the state of the water in the country you're in? And what should those in authority be doing to ensure people have access to clean drinking water? Share your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your voice notes and comments on +2763. That's 406-9126. Hashtag Africa Update Us.
Got something to say? Are you passionate about issues that matter? Do you have a voice that deserves to be heard? Well, we've got the perfect platform for you. Call in or drop us a WhatsApp on +27 63 406 9126, and we will call you back so you could have your say and be part of the conversation.
30 years of age. I just turned 30 on the 15th of November. So that's who I am,
It's not just talk, it's your chance to air your views, share your opinion, engage with the community that values your perspective. Follow us on our social media. Visit our website at www.channelafrica.co.za and get ready to share your views on Channel Africa, the African perspective. The KwaZulu-Natal Convention Bureau, in collaboration with Milvest Advisory and the city of Umhlathuze, bring you the 2025 Tourism Investment Forum Africa. As a global platform for local action, the Tourism Investment Africa aims to promote the secondary and tertiary cities and regions as attractive investment and tourism hubs. Be part of the movement transforming tourism in Africa. Join us for the TIFA 2025 from August 27 to 29 at Tembela Venue, Richards Bay, KZN, South Africa. Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802.
The KZN Convention Bureau, in collaboration with Milvest Advisory and the city of Umhlathuze, bring you the 2025 Tourism Investment Forum Africa. As a global platform for local action, the Tourism Investment Forum Africa aims to promote secondary and tertiary cities and regions as attractive investment and tourism hubs. Be part of the movement transforming tourism investment in Africa. Join us for the TIFA 2025 from the 27th to the 29th of August at Tembela Venue, Richards Bay, KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
It is 10 after 12 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Thousands of people are heading back to Khartoum after the army regained control in March this year. However, power and water issues are still slowing down residents returning to their homes. People are now dependent on charities and local aid to survive. Naba Mohidian filed this report.
Every day, hundreds of thousands of families are returning to the capital, Khartoum, amid mounting challenges, including water shortages and power outages. This came amid challenges by the government, funding challenges, as war is still going on. Conflict still continues in various places in Sudan, including Kordofan and Darfur. But people in the capital, Khartoum, are returning from neighboring countries, including Egypt, Libya, Chad, South Sudan, Eritrea, and Ethiopia, on a daily basis. They are trying to rebuild their lives, but the challenges are very big. Today, we visited many places in the state capital of Khartoum. Right now, I am in Durman, which is the twin city of Khartoum. In Khartoum state, we are seeing the destruction is really big, and most of power and water plants were targeted by the militia. Life is very difficult for hundreds of thousands, especially people of eastern Khartoum. But the Sudanese government vowed to continue their work and construction work regarding fixing and maintaining power and water plants in order to make people voluntarily come back and rebuild their lives. But lack of funding and the continuous fighting amid the humanitarian situation is, of course, hindering and making it very difficult even for the government to secure the funding to rehabilitation and reconstruction of building, especially amid the continuation of conflict, especially in Kordofan and in Darfur. But people are very hopeful that they can go back to their homes in Khartoum and rebuild what they can make in the capital, and of course to make life a bit easier for hundreds of thousands of people who want to come back to their homes. Naba Muhyiddin, Durman, Khartoum.
Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
A military prosecutor in the Democratic Republic of Congo is seeking the death penalty for the former president Joseph Kabila, who is facing treason charges for allegedly supporting the M23 rebels. The former president, who is currently out of the country, has denied supporting the rebel group. For more on this, here's Chris Ochamringa.
Former Congolese President Joseph Kabila faces charges of war crimes, insurrection and treason for his alleged links to the M23 rebel group. He has previously denied supporting the rebels, but government lawyers asked the court to order him to pay the DRC $21 billion as compensation for the destruction caused by the M23 rebellion, which he is alleged to be supporting. They also accused him of being a Rwandan citizen who has been spying for the Kigali administration. Members of Kabila's political party have dismissed the allegation and described the case as politically motivated. The military prosecutor asked judges to condemn him to death. Joseph Kabila led the DRC for 18 years after taking over from his father, Laurent Désiré Kabila, who was assassinated in 2001. His troubles with the DRC government began in 2020 after President Tshisekedi cancelled a power-sharing deal they had signed earlier, accusing him of making it difficult for him to lead the country. Kabila later left to live in South Africa. He later returned in May and visited the rebel-held cities of Goma and Bukavu, sparking outrage in the government. The court has not yet announced a date for the verdict. Chris Ochamringa, Kinshasa.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
A judge has temporarily stopped the United States government from deporting Kilma Abrego Garcia to Uganda after immigration officers detained him during a routine check-in. Reuters' Ryan Chang has more.
The migrant, whose initial wrongful deportation to El Salvador in March made him a symbol of President Donald Trump's hardline immigration policies. Abrego Garcia was set to be deported again, this time to Uganda, after he checked in at immigration offices in Baltimore on Monday. He embraced his wife before being detained. However, in a hearing conducted by telephone on Monday afternoon, Maryland-based U.S. District Judge Paula Sinis barred the government from removing him for now, as she planned to hold additional court proceedings on the administration's plan to deport Abrego. Abrego's lawyers asked Sinis to prevent deportation without the due process required under the U.S. Constitution. The judge voiced concern there were no assurances Abrego would not be imprisoned in Uganda or sent back to El Salvador. She also noted there was an absence of process around resolving Abrejo's immigration claims to remain in the United States. Outside the ICE offices, Abrejo spoke to supporters with the help of an interpreter.
De ir al trampolín con mis hijos.
When I was detained, I remembered memories with my family, going to the park with them, going to the trampoline with my children.
Esos momentos me darán fuerzas y esperanza para seguir luchando.
Those moments will continue to give me hope to continue in this fight.
Back in March, Abrejo was mistakenly sent to El Salvador, then brought back to the U.S. to face charges of transporting migrants illegally. Abrejo pleaded not guilty, and his lawyers have accused the administration of vindictive persecution. He was finally released on bond on Friday. The administration had offered to deport Abrejo to Costa Rica, a Spanish-speaking country in Central America like El Salvador, if he agreed to change his plea to guilty, but plans to deport him to Uganda if he does not. Abrejo's lawyers say they have entered plea discussions with the government to possibly avoid deportation to Uganda. After being detained in Baltimore earlier in the day, Abrejo was being held at an ICE detention center in Farmville, Virginia. Judge Sinis ordered the Trump administration to keep Abrejo there at least overnight to preserve access to his attorneys.
Africa Update on Channel Africa.
And that was a Reuters News report by Ryan Chang. It is 17 after 12 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Join us in conversation on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1. On Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 as 406 9126 hashtag Africa Updates, and let us know which country you're in. And if you have any stories that you'd like us to highlight or to focus on, send us an email. It is newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or give us a call on +2711 714 4459.
Zochitika ndi madapiri kamlondola wa zochitika pena paliponse.
Mabusiness osiyana-siyana mdziko la South Africa ayamba kukhoma msonkho wa 30% akamagulitsa katundu awo ku dziko la United States of America. Nepanotele ndikatswiri wa zachuma mu dziko la Malawi Dr. Betha Chikadza. Boma la South Africa masiku apitawo linanena kuti ngati America akani kutsitsa msonkho, bomalo lipeza misika ina. Mungatifotokozere kuti ndizotheka South Africa kupeza misika yomwe ingabweretsa ndalama pafupifupi $15 billion zomwe imapezeka ku msika ya ku America.
Tinene kuti izizi zitha kuchitika koma sizingachitike mwa pompopompo, chifukwa tikaonetsetsa izi zinthu zokuti inali msika wa dziko la America noni msika wakukhazikika umene dziko la South Africa linali likazolowera kale. Tsono kuti tingonena kuti dziko la South Africa lipezanso msika mwina mwasangasanga kuti lizitumiza katundu wake, mwina zisizingachitike pachokuti tikunena papa $15 billion ndi ndalama zambiri ndithu.
Zochitika ndi madapiri lolemba mpaka lachisanu pa nthawi ya 7 koloko kufikira 8 koloko madzulo pa Channel Africa.
Vue d'Afrique avec Joël Mouteba.
Cette peur d'un point de non-retour nucléaire suffit-elle selon vous à légitimer une telle offensive, Monsieur Talati?
Absolument pas du tout. Cela fait plus de 30 ans que l'Israël crie haut et fort sur les toits, où il veut se faire entendre que l'Iran serait à 1 an pour obtenir l'arme nucléaire. Parfois, l'Iran serait à 6 mois. Parfois, l'Iran serait à 2 semaines pour obtenir son arme nucléaire. Et curieusement, jusqu'à ce jour, il n'y a toujours aucune preuve que l'Iran a obtenu cette arme nucléaire en dépit des déclarations d'Israël et de certaines puissances parfois.
Vue d'Afrique, du lundi au vendredi de 15h à 16h, temps universel.
The KwaZulu-Natal Convention Bureau, in collaboration with Milvest Advisory and the city of Mhlathuze, brings you the 2025 Tourism Investment Forum, Africa. By positioning these regions for sustainable growth, TIFA helps drive their economic ambitions while providing access to critical capital, networks, and strategic insights on investments in the trade services sector, such as tourism. Join us for the TIFA 2025 from August 27 to 29 at Tembela Venue, Richards Bay, KZN, South Africa. Be part of the movement transforming tourism and infrastructure in Africa. Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
It is 21 after 12 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. At least 20 people, including 5 journalists, were killed when the Israeli military struck the Nasser hospital complex in Khan Yunis in the southern Gaza Strip, drawing swift condemnation from the United Nations Secretary General. Other journalists are from Reuters, the Associated Press, and Al Jazeera, among others. 2 strikes by the Israelis on the hospital took place at the second, taking out rescue workers and medics who had rushed to the scene in response to the aftermath of the first strike. While the number of journalists killed in the Gaza war varies, the Committee to Protect Journalists says at least 192 have died, while the Gaza Government Media Office puts that figure at above 240. Show and Bryce Peace has more.
Rescue and media workers, some holding up camera equipment salvaged from the debris caused by the first strike. Civil defense workers moving a deceased individual in a body bag as a second strike targets the same area. A death toll rising to above 62,000. Injuries in excess of 150,000. Days after the UN-backed Integrated Food Security Phase classification confirmed widespread famine in Gaza. Palestinian Foreign Minister Varsin Agabekian.
More than 250 Palestinians have lost their lives because of starvation. And today, journalists, your colleagues, we have 240 of your colleagues who have been brutally killed in Gaza. And that number exceeds the number of journalists killed in World War II and onwards, in all the wars in modern history. Today, 80% of Gaza is in shambles, and we will only know the extent of devastation, the extent of the killing and the injuries once we are able to assess on the ground.
The latest 5 journalists killed include Hussam al-Masri, who worked as a photojournalist for the Reuters news agency, Mariam Abu Dakar, who worked with the Associated Press, among others. Moaz Abu Taha was a freelance journalist, Ahmed Abu Aziz of the Quds Feed Network, and Mohammed Salama, an Al Jazeera camera operator, among the 20 people killed in the hospital strike. Listen to the spokesperson for the UN Secretary General, Stefan Dujarric.
The Secretary General strongly condemns the killings of Palestinians today in Israeli strikes that hit Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis in the Gaza Strip. Those killed, in addition to civilians, included medical personnel and journalists. We want to extend our condolences to families and colleagues of those journalists killed, especially those representative of the Associated Press, Reuters, and Al Jazeera who are in this room or online. These latest horrific killings highlight the extreme risks that medical personnel and journalists face as they carry out their vital work amidst this brutal conflict. The Secretary General recalls that civilians, including medical personnel and journalists, must be respected and protected at all times. He calls for a prompt, impartial investigation into these killings. He reiterates that medical personnel and journalists must be able to perform their essential duties without interference, without intimidation, and without harm, and in full accordance with international humanitarian law.
Israel's foreign ministry later confirmed the strikes on Nasser, adding that the chief of the general staff had instructed an initial inquiry and that the IDF regretted any harm to individuals, adding that it does not target journalists. But media rights group Reporters Without Borders lamented just the latest attack. Listen to its Director General, Thibaut Brutin.
When and where is it going to end? Are we going to let the Israel Defense Forces continue the repeated killing of journalists? There is international law. There are guarantees that should be granted to journalists covering conflicts. And none of that seems to be applying. So we need to be very clear about the fact that none of the journalists that are allegedly terrorists are terrorists. They are professional journalists working for legacy professional media, like, for example, Reuters or, for example, AP. A suicide drone hit the third floor of the hospital, and this third floor was reputedly known for being a space where journalists work. So there is already a first indication that it might have been a targeted strike.
This as Israel's military, including planes and tanks, are reported to have pounded the eastern and northern parts of Gaza City over the weekend, as an awaiting military escalation in the decimated enclave began to take shape. This amid warnings from the UN and others that 500 million people were now trapped in a famine marked by widespread starvation, destitution and preventable deaths, as Under-Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs Tom Fletcher explained.
It is a famine, the Gaza famine. It is a famine that we could have prevented if we had been allowed. Yet food stacks up at borders because of systematic obstruction by Israel.
UN Chief Antonio Guterres on Friday also said there were no longer words to describe the living hell in Gaza, referring to the famine there as a man-made disaster. He reminded Israel that as an occupying power it had unequivocal obligations under international law, including a duty to ensure food and medical supplies of the population, adding that the situation could not be allowed to continue with impunity. He said the time for action was now, reiterating his call for an immediate ceasefire, an immediate release of all hostages, and full, unfettered humanitarian access into Gaza. I'm Sherwin Bryce-Pease in New York.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
It's still Women's Month in South Africa, a time to celebrate courage, strength and progress. One organisation making a difference is Relate Bracelets, a not-for-profit social enterprise that empowers women through beading while supporting causes across health, education, conservation and community upliftment. Our reporter, Lebogang Mabange, has more.
At first glance, they may look like simple beads, but each Relate bracelet is a loop of hope handmade by senior women, township youth and refugees. For Relate, these bracelets are more than adornment. They are a way to create income, purpose and measurable impact. Dalit Shekel, CEO and founder of Relate Bracelets, explains.
Since 2010, we've sold over 4.5 million bracelets and generated more than 83 million in social impact. This is through earning opportunities for township elders and young adults who make the bracelets, and through funds donated to credible causes in health, education, conservation, and community upliftment. But the real heartbeat of Relate is the people behind each bracelet. Our gogos and tatas, often the backbones of their families, find dignity, purpose and income through this work.
Shekel says what makes Relate stand out is its unique impact-first retail model.
What makes Relate unique is our model. We call it impact-first social retail, where commerce, community and cause intersect. Each bracelet is transparent and accountable. Part of the sale goes directly to a cause, part creates income for our gogos and young adult crafters, and the rest sustains Relate so we can keep building jobs and opportunities. No donations, no handouts, just dignity, purpose, and measurable impact.
At the heart of this impact are the gogos, elderly women who bead bracelets to supplement their pensions, feed their families, and find a renewed sense of community. 70-year-old Veronica Mohali shares her experience.
I was very happy to feel that there is something which will provide for me. The Relate has given me the beading work, which I really enjoyed when I did it. It was such a fun for me, but end of the day, it was even more worse because it gave me peace of mind. I pay my policy and then I pay electricity. Still, there will be something left. Then I see what I can eat. Sometimes buy sweets for my children, and they're very happy about that.
And that report by Lebogang Mabange. It is 12:30 Central African Time, and our news headlines up next with Jalani Tulongwepe.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. Good afternoon. Making headlines, the Constitutional Court in South Africa has refused the family of the late former Zambian President Edgar Lungu's urgent bid to directly appeal the judgment of the High Court in Pretoria. 500,000 people returned to the Sudanese capital Khartoum in July alone. This is as the city begins to recover from a devastating war. And finally, Australian police are hunting a gunman who shot dead 2 officers and wounded another as they tried to serve a warrant for historical sex abuse allegations to a man at a rural property in the state of Victoria. I will have details on these and other stories at 1 o'clock.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective. Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
In our sports headlines, we begin with the tennis news. South Africa's Lloyd Harris has advanced to the second of the US Open tennis tournament at Flushing Meadows in New York. The 28-year-old Cape Townian, who's on the comeback trail after a serious back injury, beat unseeded Argentinian Sebastian Baez 6-3, 7-5, 6-4 in the first round match. Harris also reached the second round at Wimbledon as a qualifier earlier this year. World number 2, Carlos Alcaraz of Spain, also started his campaign in New York with a straight sets victory. He beat American Riley Opelka. Harris will take on Taylor Fritz in the second round of the US Open Men's Singles 2025 on Thursday. Rwanda have called up 6 new players to their squad for September's FIFA World Cup qualifiers against Nigeria and Zimbabwe as they seek to keep alive their hopes of qualifying for next year's finals in North America. Coach Adela Muruchi named a 27-man squad for the 2 away games, first against Nigeria on the 6th of September at Godswill Akpabio International Stadium in Uyo, and then Zimbabwe on the 9th of September at the Orlando Stadium in Johannesburg, South Africa. Rwanda are in joint second place in Group C with 8 points, level with Benin, but trailing leaders South Africa, who sit at the head of the standings with 13 points. Nigeria have 7 points and Zimbabwe 6. Meanwhile, Victor Osimhen and Ademola Lookman have been named in a strong squad of Nigeria for next month 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers against Rwanda and South Africa. The Super Eagles will host Rwanda on the 7th of September at the Godswill Akpabio Stadium before traveling to take on South African side in Bloemfontein in South Africa's Free State Province on the 9th of September. Nigeria are currently 4th in the standings after 6 matches in Group C, with South Africa topping the standings following a haul of 13 points with 4 matches remaining. Only the top team in the group will qualify directly for the 2026 global tournament that will be co-hosted by the USA, Canada, and Mexico. Kruger will be participating in 2 events at the upcoming Para Athletics World Championship taking place in India next month. She says she reflects a successful run in 2024 and highlights her growth as a para-athlete.
I just need to work harder because I think, well, my journey has been changing also a bit. So I think there's other things that also encourage me. Like I only had discus normally as an event, but now I've shot put also as an event. So I have 2 medals to kind of work for, which is nice. But this definitely encourages me. I think every award, every time someone recognizes you, it definitely pushes you harder to work to better achieve 50 hours.
For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2 711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Fikile Lingwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. 9 to 12 midday, Central African Time.
On the Move with Palisa Tau and Benjamin Mushatami.
Should influencers be expected to be impactful in society? If there is a social or societal conversation that goes up, should we be waiting eagerly to hear what the influencers have to say?
They are more than just entertainers. They are thought leaders to some certain degree. They influence culture, they influence people's thought processes, they set trends, they shape opinions of people. And the sad reality is, although a lot of them don't want to accept it, I think we're getting better with them realizing that embarking in that journey and in that space comes with a certain level of responsibility.
I see it differently in that, professionals are already good at their job, but there is an optionality that they might have to use the position that they hold in society to be able to deliver a message. This year you made the example of actors and actresses. So the same could apply to a sportsman. Just because someone's good at soccer doesn't mean they have to have an influence over society from a specific standpoint.
Keeping you on the know and on the move.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Good afternoon. Egypt's petroleum ministry says work is underway at 3 wells in the Zohr gas field in the Mediterranean in the current financial year. The ministry says another well, the Zohr 6 well, has added about 65 million cubic feet per day of gas to Egypt's output. Italian energy group Eni, Zohr's operator, resumed drilling at the Zohr field in February after production was curbed because of areas owed to foreign oil companies. South African Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana has appointed Job Study Mngomezulu as acting CEO of the country's government pensions administration agency after seconding him from the National Treasury. In a statement, the Treasury says that the decision comes in the wake of the minister placing current CEO Kidibone Mudiei on precautionary suspension with full pay effective immediately over allegations of procurement irregularities. Tsepo Mawai reports.
The statement released by National Treasury, the precautionary suspension will allow investigations into the matter to be carried without prejudicing any of the current employees. It says the move does not constitute a judgment of guilt or innocence. Godongwana has assured all government pensioners that all services will continue without interruption. Tsepo Mongwai, SABC News, Johannesburg.
In a significant step towards promoting gender equality, South African transport and logistics company Transnet is celebrating Women's Month by having an all-female shift load a cargo vessel of over 25,000 tons in the Richards Bay port in the KwaZulu-Natal province. This highlights the growing pressure of women in the maritime industry, which has traditionally been male-dominated. Terminal manager Phumelele Cele notes that women are increasingly taking on senior roles and breaking down barriers in the industry. This initiative showcases Transnet's commitment to empowering women and fostering a more inclusive work environment. Cele says women are up to any task assigned to them.
They handle different activities, some of them from the supervisor, chief supervisors, some of them fleet supervisors, others they are just operators driving our own machines, forklift, haulers, which is the one that is carrying cargo. As TPT, Richards Bay, we just demonstrate that women are capable, being the Women's Month, and also we're showcasing our ability to make sure that our own women, they are equal as men, as they can handle these difficult operations.
Zimbabwe has brought back a ban on maize imports to boost local farmers and has grown enough of its own maize this year to supply its millers after a bumper harvest. Permanent Secretary at the Zimbabwean Ministry of Agriculture, Obajiri, says improved rainfall boosted output and reversed a sharp decline last year when El Nino-induced drought forced the country to rely on imports, including genetically modified maize. French Finance Minister Eric Lombard has suggested that there is a risk that the International Monetary Fund will have to intervene in the economy if Prime Minister François Barrot's minority government falls next month. Barrot's minority government looks increasingly likely to be ousted after three main opposition parties said they would not back a confidence vote which Barrot announced for the 8th of September over his plans for sweeping budget cuts. $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,528 naira. Botswana, 13.29. Kenya, 128 shilling 11, and Zambia, 23 kwacha 13. The BRICS countries in Brazil, the dollar there will cost you 5 real 14. In Russia, it's at 80 rubles 19. India, 87 rupees 50. China, 71 15, and in South Africa the dollar will cost you 17 rand 54 cents. $1 is trading at 74 pence to the British pound and 85 to the euro. Gold is trading at $3,377 and platinum at $1,327 per ounce. Brent crude oil is at $68.35 a barrel. For any business stories you would like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business in Johannesburg, I'm Tabiso Lohoko.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. The KwaZulu-Natal Convention Bureau, in collaboration with Milvest Advisory and the city of Mhlathuze, brings you the 2025 Tourism Investment Forum, Africa. By positioning these regions for sustainable growth, TIFA helps drive their economic ambitions while providing access to critical capital, networks, and strategic insights on investments in the trade services sector, such as tourism. Join us for the TIFA 2025 from August 27 to 29 at Tembela Venue, Richards Bay, KZN, South Africa. Be part of the movement transforming tourism and infrastructure in Africa. Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
It is 12:42 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. The theme for this week's World Water Week is Water for Climate Action, focusing on the emergencies of climate change, biodiversity loss, and environmental degradation, while emphasizing climate mitigation and climate adaptation and resilience. The week covers every aspect of water, from fresh water to the seas and oceans, while linking to the UN's 2025 theme of glaciers and cryosphere, and recognizing oceans as vital parts of the hydrological cycle linking water and climate. But to speak to us further on the water situation on the African continent, we are joined on the line by Dr. Calvin Kamayoyo, a Zambian economist and technical advisor for African Rivers, an international NGO. Dr. Kamayoyo, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
So good afternoon, and thank you very much for inviting us and according African Rivers this opportunity to share our perspective on the World Water Week.
Now, Dr. Kamayoyo, let's begin with the theme for this week, which is Water for Climate Action. Why is this theme important, especially for Africa?
For the start, is that as African Rivers, we are excited that the theme is focusing on climate action, which is basically upscaling the climate action global agenda. We must also realize climate change is a major threat to the health of our rivers, and most of the fresh water. The main source of the fresh water is the rivers, the lakes, but climate change, it's a critical issue which is affecting the health of our water. We may also draw some of the statistics. The world population has been growing, and right now somewhere around 8 billion on planet Earth. And 25% of this, or say 2.2 billion of people of the world have no access to safe water. And that of over 50% of it they are found in Africa. And the major source is the rivers. And as African rivers, we are concerned that something happened, and we are keen to see some of the outcomes that will come from the interaction of this week regarding on how we come up with adaptation strategies for ensuring that we conserve our water on the.
Now, what is the real state of Africa's water?
Africa, everywhere, it's almost under threat, because almost as a result of what I just mentioned, that climate change, it's causing a voluntary impact on the water capacity. But the other issue which is emerging of human behavior, it's also pollution. Our water is under threat from plastic litter pollution and also industrial. As you know, many countries are looking forward to grow their economies, and some of the industries are causing much of the pollution for our freshwater sources, water bodies, and mainly us that provide fresh water. And these are the most water bodies that are under severe threat from climate change and also the pollution. And I must quickly mention that if the rivers are affected by climate change, it will be very difficult to also build climate resilience by countries or communities. So the Africa is under severe stress because the economy is growing. Population of the African continent is also increasing, and this is causing increased demand on the water. Yes, please.
Now, Dr. Kamayoyo, what can be done with regards to the continued degradation of what we are seeing in terms of the impact of climate change on the African continent, as well as the impact of, the pollution in our water?
Yes, we must understand that water is life, and of course, life depends on because our rivers are the major sources of our fresh water that is used, and also that is used in the industries, and therefore it calls for effort. But the first thing that we should always emphasize is to ensure that we raise awareness regarding water conservation techniques, and we also need to that we put in place some laws or regulations that or environmental adverse effects that impact on the health of our rivers, which are the reservoirs of our water on the continent of Africa.
All right. Well, Dr. Kamayoyo, we are going to leave it there for today. Thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update.
Thank you.
That's Dr. Calvin Kamayoyo, a Zambian economist and technical advisor for African Rivers and international NGO, joining us on the line.
Ukatili wa kijinsia unaharibu maisha na kutenga jamii. Hutokea nyumbani, shuleni, kazini na mara nyingi kwa ukimya. Lakini hauwezi kuendelea. Ukiona, ongea. Ikiwa unaumia, funguka, kwa sababu kutofanya lolote sio chaguo. Sikiliza vituo vyote 19 vya redio kuanzia Jumatano ya tarehe 23 Julai kwenye mijadala, ushauri, tamthilia, maonyesho ya elimu na mahojiano na wataalamu. wataalam, manusura, watunga sheria na nchi nzima iliyoathirika na ukatili wa kijinsia kwenye vituo vyako pendwa vya redio. Piga simu 0800 428 428 ili kuripoti unyanyasaji au kupata msaada. GBV ikomeshwe na wewe. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwenu na shirika la SABC.
The KwaZulu-Natal Convention Bureau, in collaboration with Milvest Advisory and the city of Umhlathuze, bring you the 2025 Tourism Investment Forum Africa. As a global platform for local action, the Tourism Investment Africa aims to promote the secondary and tertiary cities and regions as attractive investment and tourism hubs. Be part of the movement transforming tourism in Africa. Join us for the TIFA 2025 from August 27 to 29 at Tembela Venue, Richards Bay, KZN, South Africa.
We are on Open Views Audio Bouquet. Channel 628. Africa Update. Channel Africa.
It is 12:51 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Operation Dudula has formally registered as a political party and plans to contest the 2026 municipal elections for the first time. The controversial South African interest group emerged in 2021 and is known for its campaigns highlighting the impact of undocumented migration on jobs, public services, and community safety. Our reporter Dimakato Lishoro caught up with the leader of the group and filed this report.
Since its formation, Operation Dudula has been active in townships and urban centers, raising concerns about undocumented migration. Members have staged marches and campaigns, most recently focusing on access to public healthcare facilities. Leader Zandile Dabula says this organization's aim is to push government to strengthen border control and enforce immigration laws.
Operation Dudula is a fully fledged political party, and we have different pillars. There's nothing being xenophobic nor vigilantes because, we've been marching for the past 5 years, trying to get attention from the leaders. We've been raising these concerns for the past 5 years. Nobody's listened to us. We are saving our country. If we don't do it, then unfortunately, nobody else can do it. We are the only ones that can save it now.
Dabula adds that the lack of enforcement, fueled by corruption and weakened governance, has necessitated the existence of the interest group.
The problem is that we do not have leaders currently. We are on autopilot. And foreigners are taking advantage of the lawlessness that's happening in our country. We're not saying we're blaming everything on them, but the fact that we have laws, but nobody is enforcing these laws. They take advantage of the loopholes, and they have studied our laws. They know it better than, most South Africans. Even our law enforcers don't understand these laws. But also the corruption within our government. I mean, this chaos, definitely somebody's benefiting out of it.
Now registered as a political party, Operation Dudula says it will contest selected municipalities, including Johannesburg, Tshwane, Ekurhuleni, and Sidibeng. Political analyst Dr. Levi Ndou says the group's grassroots mobilization could translate into electoral support.
They are going to be putting an emphasis on issues that will relate to illegal immigrants. And you would know that the Patriotic Alliance also got seats in the previous elections because of their slogan that says Abahambe. My view is that there could be a good relationship between Operation Dudula and the Patriotic Alliance.
Their campaigns have divided opinions amongst locals, with many in support of the group.
I support Operation Dudula. There's a fine thin line between an asylum seeker. Operation Dudula is not against asylum seekers. They are against illegal foreigners. And I think we know the history of what these people are doing. And they are here illegally. They do all sorts of wrong things. They take our benefits. If you go to hospitals, the queues are very long because it's people from Zimbabwe and other nearby foreign countries, including those that are far too. Those people are illegal here. They're stealing our IDs. They're stealing our identities. They are always in places that we should be there. They are killing us.
I honestly wouldn't vote for Tutula as a political party. I just feel they are very anti-black. They've got no regard for the constitution. They're anti-black. They're xenophobic. No clear leadership. They only speak foreigners and nothing to offer, that will benefit the well-being of all South Africans.
Despite the criticism and their meeting with the health minister to tone down operations at hospitals, Operation Dudula says it will continue its campaigns, including advocating for the employment of local doctors and ensuring schools prioritize South African children.
We are going to intensify because now we're going to include the doctors, unemployed doctors, because we have a lot of foreign doctors that are hired in these public healthcare facilities. So what we're going to do is I will be leading a campaign, an employment campaign, where we want to create about plus minus 250 jobs per week for South Africans. So we're going to be visiting restaurants, we'll be visiting industrial places, making sure that we remove foreigners and we replace them with South Africans. Now, this is going to happen simultaneously with the education program because we will be stationed at schools come first week of Jan 2026, where we are saying that these are public facilities. Public schools are for South Africans and they need to be reserved for South Africans. If a foreigner needs a school, they need to go private. If they can't, go to private, and they are documented, then they need to come last. Until all South African kids are placed at schools, then they will be the last ones.
For Channel Africa News, I'm Demakatso Leshoro in Johannesburg.
We are on Open Views Audio Bouquet. Channel 628.
Well, it is that time of the day where we say a happy Tuesday to the Upside team, and I think it's Matsiko today because they're not here in studio. They are in KZN. Hello, guys. Tell us what's happening and what you're doing in KZN.
Good afternoon, Lulu. It's actually me. Sorry to disappoint. Yes, we are in KZN this afternoon. We're broadcasting outdoors. We are playing with other kids. We're here because as of tomorrow, the 27th to the 29th of August in 2025, we will be broadcasting at the TIFA 2025, which will be the Tourism Investment Forum Africa, bringing some of the most brilliant investment minds to the city of Umhlathuze in KZN. What a beautiful venue we find ourselves in today at the Tembela venue. And it's a wedding venue, but my goodness me, it's the kind of venue that you just want to stay at for a long time. So we're very fortunate that we'll be broadcasting from this venue. Here's what's coming up on the show this afternoon. We get into conversation about the effects of Botox when it goes wrong, and it goes wrong very badly. Who do you call? Who do you complain to if the doctor gives you the wrong prescription or the wrong injections and then you become disabled or paralyzed? What are the repercussions? That's our first conversation. And then Beauty on Tap celebrates a decade of growth with the launch of a new flagship store at Sandton City. We'll get into conversations with some of the venue organizers or the organizers here at the TIFA event at Tembela venue in Umhlathuze. And then later on, we get into conversation with Zikhona Sotlaga. She celebrates 20 years in the entertainment industry, and she'll be running a nationwide, shall we call it, it's not even a session. She'll be teaching people how to become better broadcasters and navigate this entertainment space. That's all coming up on the Upside. I've said a mouthful, so apologies, but that's all coming up on the Upside.
And I must say, Zikhona is an amazing, amazing, amazing actress. I think she's one of the leading ones we have in the country, with something to definitely look forward to. And of course, where you are, we've been highlighting this KZN, Convention Bureau, and it's the Tourism Investment Forum. So it is an exciting time for Channel Africa as well. And you guys being there, enjoy it. Send us lots of pictures. Post on all our platforms, guys.
We've been active, we've been shooting, we are content creators on demand right now.
Okay, so we're expecting a lot. We will be reposting everything you post. That's Tebogo Lekuleni and Matsiko Musito coming to you from KZN at the Tourism Investment Forum Africa. It is officially beginning tomorrow, but they are already there on the ground, and an exciting show coming up from the top of the hour. For myself, Lulu Gaboo, and our producer Tracy Bumgard, our technical operator Wandile Mate, and social media Sfiso Hlope and Talent Butelezi. It's been a good one. Let's do this again tomorrow and continue with us on our social media platforms. Bye.
SABC News.